في ظل تصاعد التوترات السياسية في أمريكا اللاتينية ومع قرارات الرئيس الأمريكي دونالد ترامب الأخيرة وما تبع ذلك من تداعيات خطف الرئيس الفنزويلي نيكولاس مادورو، برزت كوبا في قلب المشهد مجددا لتطرح المزيد من التساؤلات حول مستقبل العلاقات الأمريكية الكوبية وتأثير هذه السياسات على الاستقرار الاقتصادي والسياسي في المنطقة. لمناقشة هذه القضايا يسعدنا أن نلتقي سعادة سفير كوبا في القاهرة السفير ألكسندر بيسار. Your Excellency, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure and an honor to share with you some points of view about the situation in Latin America and in the Middle East.
Thank you. Let me start by asking about the current state of cooperation between our countries. So, what are the main areas of cooperation between Egypt and Cuba at present?
Well, Cuba and Egypt has been historical for more than 75 years. Egypt was the first Arab and African country that established diplomatic relation with Cuba in September 1949. We have been established an uninterrupted relation from these 75 years. Friendship and cooperation is the most important things in our historical relations that begin with a very, very strange relation between leaders as Fidel Castro and Gamal Abdel Nasser, one of the greatest leaders in the 20th century. I can tell you that there is a political will in both sides, in both governments, in order to improve and to develop these relations of cooperation in sector of mutual interest. I can tell you, for example, that we are very interested in the established cooperation in health sector, in biotechnological sector. There is interchange of visits of the two ministers in the last 2 years, Minister of Health in both countries, visits of some delegations from Cuba to here, and from here to Cuba to participate in some events there, some expositions about medicines, about production of medicines. And we are now working in this area because we have a great development in research. We have created in Cuba so many new medicines and products, vaccines, for example, and we want to share with Egypt this Cuban knowledge. And of course, Egypt has a great development in the production of medicines. You are, in my opinion, one of the most greatest producers of medicines in all Africa and in the Middle East, and I think that we can complemented both experience in a mutual benefit and in the benefit of the countries in the Africa and the Middle East.
Your Excellency, the world today is witnessing profound geopolitical changes and growing polarization. So how does Cuba view the current global geopolitical shifts, especially amid increasing international polarization?
I think we are living a very complex and dangerous moment all over the world, because the international relations system that was born after the end of the Second World War in this moment is not working, because some countries are trying to impose by force their interest. We have so many examples, especially in this region, in the Middle East, because, for example, Israel is acting with a total impunity, violating all the international law, violating the Charter for the United Nations. We can see during the last 2 years the genocide in Gaza, against all international law, against the humanitarian law. We can see at the same time the military interventions of Israel in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Iran, in Syria, and this is very, very dangerous. And in this moment, for example, the international instruments or the international organizations, United Nations, the Security Council, couldn't stop this genocide in Gaza in the first term. And all the conflicts that we are seeing in this region, we can see Libya, we can see Syria, we can see Lebanon, we can see Yemen, Palestine,
Yeah.
of course. And in my opinion, this is very, very dangerous. We are seeing now in Latin America that the United States and the Trump administration mainly is trying to do the same. They are trying to impose by the
Another
force.
side from the world, actually.
Yes, they are trying to impose by force their interest. We have a very clear example in Venezuela.
Venezuela.
At the beginning of this month, they bombed in Caracas and they kidnapped the constitutional president of Venezuela. This is a violation of the international law of everything.
Yeah.
Any president can be kidnapped by another country because this is violate all the resolutions, all the Charter of the United Nations, and this is very dangerous because nothing happened. They violate the law and nothing happened. And this is very dangerous and very worrying for all the world because if any country, power countries, want to do the same, the small countries, we are going to suffer a lot by that reason.
How have global crises such as the war in Ukraine and ongoing economic tensions affected the Cuban economy?
Well, Cuba is a small island. We are only 10 million of our population. Only Cairo have more population than Cuba. We have an open economy. We depend of imports of many things. We depend of the foreign investment to develop our country in many areas, and of course the instability in the war in Ukraine, what happens here in the region. This is bad for Cuban economy because, for example, if the value of the food increase, it's bad for Cuba because we import a lot of food. If the value of oil, fuel is increased, it's very bad for the Cuban economy. And of course, we suffer a lot with this situation in all over the world. But in the case of Cuba, the most dangerous thing we have is the blockade and the sanctions of the United States for more than 60 years.
Yeah.
This is the main obstacle to the Cuban development because they impose a lot of restriction to Cuba, a lot of sanctions that to put more difficult to Cuba to, for example, to import medicines, to import food, to import fuel for the normal
basics
functioning of the country, of our industry, of our agriculture, of our system, health system that is for free for all Cubans. This is the main obstacle and the main problem we are facing now. Not now, since more than 60 years. It's the blockade and the sanction of the United States that they are increased in the latest eight years.
Yeah.
With the Trump administration, Biden administration, and now with new term of President Trump.
As you mentioned, for more than 6 decades, relations between United States and Cuba shaped by embargo. So actually, I need to ask you, how would you describe the impact of the US embargo today on the daily life of Cuban citizens?
The impact is really strong in all Cuban society, in all Cuban spheres. There's not any thing in Cuba that don't affect by the blockade. For example, the health system. If we cannot buy a medicine that is produced in the United States, so many people in Cuba could die by that reason.
Yeah.
And the blockade, especially childs, especially women that need some kind of medicines that only the United States produce, or companies from the United States. And we cannot buy sometimes this product because due to the blockade. And for example, in agriculture, we need machinery, we need many things that we cannot buy to the sanctions, to the blockade. Any area that you can imagine for a normal functioning of the country is affected by the blockade. And of course, the blockade affected very strong all the Cuban society and mainly the population. The the elders, the Cuban women, the child.
Children, yeah.
Yes. This is very, very, very strong, confronting a very, very complex situation. For example, there are more than 10 hours of blackout daily in Cuba.
Yeah, I know.
In some areas, more than 10 hours. Can you imagine that? It's very difficult for Cuba to move forward, for our industry, for our hospital, for our research institutions. It's very, very difficult. Problem is that the great media is in favor of the interests of the United States, of the great powers. It's the same with the Palestinian people that happen in Palestine, that happen in some countries in the region. Nobody care. Yemen, nobody care about that. People only care about Europe, about United States, what's happening there. I think this is important, this interview with you, because we can show to the world.
So recently, President Donald Trump threatened to impose stricter measures on Cuba. How does Havana respond to these threats?
They are imposing sanctions against Cuba for six years, more than 60 years. They told recently in an interview that the only thing he can do in Cuba is enter and destroy everything, bombing everything, like Israel did in Gaza. They told, of course, they can put more sanctions related mainly with the Cuban that live in the United States. For example, they can cut the remittance that these people send to Cuba, to their families. This is very important for Cuba, and they know. They can cut the travel that the people, they can prohibit the Cubans live in the United States travel to Cuba to visit their families. They can do many things. And in these measures, the most dangerous for us, one of the most dangerous, is that the Cuba is in the list of countries that sponsor terrorism. This is very bad for the Cuban relation with the banks all over the world. Because you are in this list, only 3 countries are in this list. North Korea, Syria was, but they removed it. Iran, I think, and Cuba. Only 3 countries in that list. Unilateral is a fake list because Cuba never sponsored terrorism. Cuba is a victim of the terrorism for many years, for more than 60 years. There are another issue, for example, they are trying to cut the oil that arrived to Cuba. They are trying to cut from Venezuela now and from any other country, because they know that we don't produce a lot of quantities of fuel, of oil, and we need to import. And they know that, and they are trying to cut all the oil that are arriving to Cuba in these days. They are saying that without the oil and the money from Venezuela, Cuba will collapse in a few days, in a few weeks, in a few months. They are trying to do that. They are trying to cut all the money that you will receive from abroad, from our exports or something like that, in order to create more difficulties, in order that the Cuban society and the Cuban system collapse, and they justify an intervention in Cuba, humanitarian or intervention, as you prefer.
Does Cuba view President Donald Trump rhetoric and policies toward the Cuban as a domestic political pressure or as a real threat to Cuban national security?
I think we have the both. Domestic, because there are many Cubans in the south of Florida that vote in the elections. And sometimes there are a small group of Cubans in the South Florida, that they are very powerful. They control media, they control resources, a lot of in Florida. And these people, this small group of people, are against Cuba, that are against the Cuban Revolution, including Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. He is obsessive with destroy Cuban Revolution, and the President of the United States knows that. And in order to get this vote of this support of these Cubans, they have a rhetoric against the revolution, against the Cuban people. This is the domestic part. And of course, it's a threat for our national security, mainly after what happened in Venezuela. Because this president don't care about anything. He told in an interview recently, I don't care about international law, I don't care about anything, only stop my morality, only can stop me. And it's very dangerous because in my opinion, there's not morality in Donald Trump. Yeah. For many things, everybody knows that. Yeah. And this is very dangerous, not only for Cuba. They are threatening, after Venezuela, they threaten Mexico, Cuba, Colombia, Greenland. This is very dangerous because this is against the partner from Europe, member of NATO. Yeah. This is something crazy. I think that he will get Greenland.
Oh, really?
Yes, I think. He's decided to do it. By force, I don't know, but he will do it. Who are going to stop him to do that?
No one.
No one.
Actually.
No one.
How is Cuba preparing for potential new escalation from United States administration again?
Well, we have been prepared for more than 60 years because the possibility of in military intervention from the United States is always on the table. We have a strategy in Cuba called the war of all the people. That means that every Cuban who wants to carry a weapon can fight against our enemy, against the invaders. We are peaceful people. We recently, our president thought that we are open to negotiate with the United States, but we ask only for respect of the Cuban sovereignty and the Cuban independence. If they want to respect our sovereignty and our independence, see it as equal, we are open to discuss. This is not now. This is not new. Since the beginning of the Cuban Revolution, we talk about the possibility to have normal relations with the United States because we are neighbors and we have many things that we can cooperate against, for example, against drug trafficking, against human trafficking. Cuba is a guarantee for the security of the United States in the region, in the Caribbean. And they know that, they know.
Yeah.
And but we are prepared for any scenario. I think that the military intervention is not the most likely now, because the cost it will be very high in international situation now. But we will try to push more sanctions and to cut all the things we receive from abroad in order to provoke an internal collapse of the Cuban society. But we are prepared for anything.
Cuba actually has long expressed the position on international justice and regional conflicts. So how does Cuba view the development in the Middle East, particularly the Palestinian issues?
Well, the situation is very complex and dangerous too in the region. I told before that Israel is acting with total impunity, and the possibility of war now against Iran is very real. Yeah. And I think that there are a new war against Iran. It will be very dangerous for all the region, not only for Iran, for Israel. I think that can spread for all the region, for the Gulf, all the countries in the Middle East, Iraq, Syria, and this is very, very dangerous. Of course, the Cuban position towards the Palestinian is historical. As Egypt, we share the same position, supporting the Palestinian cause and the right of the Palestinian people to establish his sovereign independent state in the borders before 1967. And we support all this position in all the international forum at the same level that Egypt is doing now. We are against the displacement of the Palestinian people from its territory that Israel is trying to do now. They are trying to withdraw from Gaza, from the West Bank. And of course, we are against this. We are against the aggressive policy and expansionist policy of Israel toward the Palestinian people. And but I think I'm very worried about the situation now.
After Peace Council?
In October, it was a very important agreement in order to stop the massive bombings against Gaza. But Israel don't respect that. They continue violating this every day. Yesterday, today, they bombing, they kill people. Maybe in this moment, in a short period, it will happen. It will be good for the Palestinian people that suffer a lot after 2 years of bombings, of destroying everything in Gaza. This is good. But in my opinion, Israel won't stop. They want more. They want all the Middle East. They want Lebanon. They want part of Syria. They want more. And nobody can stop Israel.
What is your the Egypt's role in this issue?
Well, I think that Egypt's role is very, very important because Egypt is in the middle of all negotiation, not only for the Palestinian issue, for all conflicts, Sudan, for example, Yemen, Libya, and I want to recognize the very important role and the leadership of Egypt in order to resolve this war, all the conflicts, by the diplomatic way. Because in my opinion, this is the only way to resolve all the problems within continents, the conflicts, the war. The war is not the solution for any disagreement between countries. And I think that Egypt has played a very, very important role and a leadership in the region, and everybody recognizes that. I think I want to congratulate Egypt for his role and for his leadership in order to resolve the conflict in Gaza first, and all other conflicts that are surrounded Egypt in this moment.
I'd like to ask you about the message. Would Cuba like to send it to the international community regarding to its sovereignty and independence of decision making?
Our message is clear. We are going to defend our sovereignty and our independence till the end. We want peace, we don't want war, but we are prepared for any scenario, even a military, including a military intervention in Cuba.
في ختام هذا الحوار نشكر سعادة السفير على هذا الحوار الصريح جدا جدا. نشكره على توضيح موقف بلاده من التطورات الأخيرة، ونأمل أن تحمل المرحلة المقبلة المزيد من فرص الحوار والتفاهم بما يخدم شعوب المنطقة. شكرا لحضراتكم على المتابعة وعلى تلفزيون اليوم السابع. شكرا لحضرتك سعادة السفير.
شكرا لكم.